Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming and listening to the Freedom Mastery Belief Breakthrough podcast. Today's going to be an exciting adventure because this is the first time I'm meeting this lovely woman. She was a nurse. She's done so many different things in her 10 years as nursing, and now she moved away from a reactive place and starting to teach people preventative medicine. But the fun part is we've never met each other before, which means she has no clue what she's getting herself into talking to the likes of me. So, Angela, please introduce yourself and tell people why you love to do the things that you're doing and what you do.
Okay, I'm Angela Harrison. I am the head coach and owner of STF Fitness. I actually started out as a nurse in my career, worked as a nurse for 10 years. I loved parts of nursing. I didn't love all the parts of nursing. And I found my passion slowly in that journey, going through my own experience, that I loved more of the preventative side of things. And so there, I took the leap of faith because 2020 challenged us all. And I had just this mindset switch that happened, which ended up in my sister and I starting this business together where we could help others preventatively versus like in a reactive sense. We both knew we loved helping others. We just weren't 100% in how we wanted to do it or how we like to do it. And it took time. And I don't know, that moment just came and we're like, this is it. This is what we're doing. So I love what I do, again, because it's preventative. It's not only helping someone change their physical and change their nutrition, because I feel like so many people look at health and nutrition coaching as just that. It's just, oh, I'm losing some fat and I'm learning how to eat better. It's way deeper than that. In fact, I would argue that probably the biggest changes in my clients are mindset. I'm not even joking. Like, they will go from like, I want to lose X amount of weight by this time and just feel better about myself. And then it turns into this, like, I feel so empowered and so strong, and I want to teach others and help others, and my life is transformed, and I know I can say no, and I have control in situations. Like, their life just changes. And it tends to bleed into all areas of their life, right? It's not just like the physical. It ends up in their spiritual sometimes, in their emotional, in their relationships with others, in their jobs. So for me, I feel like I can help them in an even greater sense than I even realized when I started this business. So anyhow, that's about it.
There you go. But that's how everything goes. So many people pigeonhole trainers and nutritionists into one thing. The more and more you start to understand who you are, the more you can help people in many aspects of their lives, which this is exactly how my practice started. Since you don't know about me, and if you're listening to this for the very first time, I'm Patrick LaRouge. I have the Freedom Mastery experience, and I started off as a body worker. And as a body worker, I noticed and learned that I didn't deserve to be stuck and pigeonholed in the move the flesh around and make people feel relaxed. And I started developing my own way. Then I started to understand about injuries, and I was able to create a process that completely changed the way people healed from pain. It was relatively quickly, and I can do it all within an hour. And then I tripled that by adding in more structure to that. So then I learned this another technique that I combined everything that I knew with that. And then I have this whole nother treatment that I do now that pretty much resets the musculature and starts to rebalance the body on a muscular aspect. But that's not all. I went through my own story of healing my eyes, and I learned energetics, spirituality. Then I went into the systems, organs of the body, the electrical aspect of the body. And then I'm now stuck in psychology for the last 10 years, right? And now I'm doing childhood development and changing people's belief patterns. And that's once you do everything once you change one aspect of a root belief, it translates to everything. And that's where people are getting stuck on the mindset stuff now, which is exactly where everyone is. And I can see that you get lit up about when you start talking and seeing that in your clients in that way.
Yeah.
But we started talking before the camera, and we started talking about different things that you learned. And this is a big thing I want everyone to understand is she went from a place where the world is reactive, a nurse. You teach somebody, and I'm going to let her explain this in a second. You learn something reactive, and you have to get somebody out of pain and react towards it. And she left that world to go into something bigger, which then she started to learn everything she needed to learn. She had to challenge herself in such a way that she's never done podcasts, and yet she's on this podcast to a person that she's never met before. That's how brave this woman is, and that's another reason why I'm falling in love with you all. Like, this is awesome. But I would like you to explain that feeling of going and when you learn nursing for 10 years, your end all be all, like, I'm going to help people through nursing, to realize that wasn't the end. And now I'm going to start something new. What was that like? What was that shift like?
Oh my goodness. It was terrifying, but exciting at the same time. I think it had a lot to do with my own personal health too. I could tell in what I was doing in nursing, it was starting to take a toll on me because I wasn't happy with what I was doing. I wasn't physically doing well at the job. Like physically, it would hold you back from taking care of yourself. Like you couldn't go to the bathroom and you couldn't drink enough water and you couldn't nourish yourself sometimes enough. It really like that made me feel stuck. And then also mentally, very coming from the beginning of nursing, I was in oncology, and that was really hard for me because I lost my mom to cancer as well while I worked there. Yeah. And so that was a tough job for me because I went into I have this weird track record of like doing things I don't want to do. I didn't want to do oncology. Don't ask me why I chose oncology when they finally came down to interviewing, but I chose oncology because I said, I don't want to be afraid of it anymore. That's what I told myself at the time. And little did I know, I think it set me up for the stages in my life, what was going to happen with my mom. Because had I not done oncology, I wouldn't have been prepared for everything that was to come. I think it helped me transition to knowing what to expect to help her as well. It helped me care for her. But anyhow, in that journey of my life, I was probably at my most unhealthy because I wasn't taking care of myself. I was busy taking care of everyone else, busy taking care of my mom when she got sick. And that's when I realized I needed some sort of change. And I went into different type of nursing. So the recovery room after surgery, which a little happier place, I guess you could say. Still reactive, but not quite like oncology or taking care of those who are just sick. You know what I mean? When I went into that kind of nursing, it was a better environment for me, but I still could tell like it just wasn't it for me. It was like, well, it's still reactive. It's still a lot of people who have chronic health conditions and things that you're kind of teaching them to live with at this point. And I don't know, it just wasn't fulfilling to me. It's like, why this keeps happening to people, but yet like some of these are things that we can prevent. And here we are, we're not preventing them. So what can I do to do that? And in that process of all of that happening, I was taking care of myself. When I started that job, I essentially was able to change my schedule and prioritize my health a little bit more. Started working out, started working on my nutrition, which was gradual. And just my passion started to fuel. During the years of working, there was like working there allowed me to start exploring who I was and what I really enjoyed. It gave a little more time back to me. And I became the health champion for our unit. I started like doing activities for people and getting them involved. They made me like organize 5Ks and all those things. And then eventually when 2020 hit, I knew I needed something different. It was right before the COVID hit. And I applied for a job. It was in nursing still, but it was a preventative job. And it was a health coaching of some sorts, but for the employees of the hospital. So I applied for it, and then COVID happened and the job market shut down, like within days of me applying. So I felt stuck, but I had gotten it in my mind at that point, like, that was what I want to do. Like, this is what I want to do. I know this is what I'm doing. It just felt right. But now the jobs, they were shut down and they weren't going to come back anytime soon. Like, we knew this. That was low priority right now. But I still knew. I had that thing in the back of my mind. I was like, no, I have to keep pursuing this. Like, I have to keep chipping away. And I didn't know how, but my sister actually brought it up to me. And she said, hey, have you ever thought of being a health and fitness coach? And I was like, no, I couldn't do that. And she was like, why not? Like, you kind of already do a lot of those things as it is. And she's like, I think it'd be cool to do. I would like to do it. And we thought about it for a while, kind of ended up talking about it a little longer and said, you know what would make us stand out? Let's start it together. Sisters that have their own health and fitness of some sort. We didn't know what. We were at first just doing it to inspire others, and then it became a thing. And we created the business. I started just coaching while working nursing full time. And I knew I had to ditch nursing, man. I was really loving what I was doing on the side and not loving what I was doing full time. And
this is that 2020 now.
No, so 2020 was where the changes started, and then 2021, that's when we started business. We were thinking about it 2020 all the way through the end. And we're like, that's it. This is what we're doing. 2021 on, we're doing this. And we started the business 2021. Here we are, 2 years later, and it's been crazy. Crazy good though.
But that's the reason. Another reason why I was attracted to you, because I'm going and teaching people their journeys and showing people. Everyone's like, "Oh, I love your success. Teach me how you got to the success," and they only focus on the end purpose. And I'm just like, there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen for a person to be there. They have to go through all their beliefs. They have to go through all their trials and tribulations. Like you talked about your own, like when you were in healthcare before you went into the oncology aspect of it. The bone marrow transplant unit, I think you said.
Yeah.
You had your own health issues. What were you like in the beginning of this journey?
So when
I'm thinking about.
Yeah, it was 2000. Hold on a second. 2011. Yeah, 2011 is when I started nursing. October 2011, and I was okay. I had always done workouts, nutrition, forget about it. I ate whatever I wanted. I had always like kind of dabbled in the workouts, and I did all kinds of things, just not consistently, which is the key.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got into nursing and really just like it became my life really. It was very taxing on my body and mind, my spirituality, everything. I was so drained emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, everything. You question everything because oncology is hard. I mean, where I worked on the bone marrow transplant unit, that literally was like the last treatment option for these people. They maybe had already tried chemo, didn't really do what they needed it to do. So this was it. So there was a lot of loss in that job. And I'm an emotional eater. So as you can imagine, lots of food was consumed. And, maybe when I was younger, it didn't matter quite as much because I was running around more. But being in this job, yes, you're running around, but it's not the same as like exercising and working out. And I probably was over consuming way more than I even realized. And lots of treats get brought in by patients, family members, doctors, all the things.
Angela, how big did you get?
I didn't actually gain too much weight. It was more like physical inner lab results weren't very good. My cholesterol was high.
Oh, so this is perfect.
Yeah.
Because this is something I want you to dive into is getting people to realize it's not about the number on the scale.
No, it's not. Eventually that will catch up to you, but it starts inside first. So.
Perfect. So we're going to chat about that in a second.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Tell me more about what was happening.
My labs were poor. My cholesterol was high. My A1C was always fine, but it was higher than probably it needed to be. You know what I mean? And I could just tell, like physically, I didn't feel good. I was tired all the time. I got to the point too where I was falling asleep driving. Not good. Yeah, there's a lot of things that happened. Started to get weird skin rashes, all kinds of like symptoms. I had no clue what was going on, but now in hindsight, I realized because I just wasn't taking care of myself at all.
So
nutritionally,
things that
exercise.
People don't realize that I want to bring up that you just said, and I want to make sure everyone hears this, is like it's the subtle things, the things that you take for granted, that is your body screaming at you. Skin issues, redness on your skin, the eczemas, the things that you easily go, I could take some cortisone cream and you just put it on there. All the rosaceas that's happening, all these small little symptoms that your body is saying that's not bad, but it actually showing you something that's really, really complex that's happening inside. And that's just the thing that's sleeping through the cracks. And your skin is your biggest organ, by the way. And if that's talking to you, that means there's a lot of your digestive tract that is talking to you, but there's a lot of things going wrong if you're at that place, because your body is designed not to show you anything. And if it's showing you something, you have to listen. It's just we live in a convenient world.
Yep.
If something shows up, just take a pill and it goes away. And we're instant gratification in that way. So
I have to laugh at this one.
We say
I
again?
have to laugh. I have to laugh at this because it was during a football game, either this weekend or last weekend, and it was like a commercial about prepare for football weekend, and it was like talking about Pepto-Bismol or Tums or something. I'm like, why are we making this so this is not, it's not normal to have all of these symptoms. Like that, this tells me there's other issues going on. But that's the life I've lived too. I'm like, oh, I hit my 30s. I need Tums now every single day. No, you don't. I promise you don't.
She's 100% right. Like, we have conditioned our world to put out and be reactive rather than just being preventative. So now you are a nurse. You gone through your fears. Like you said, one big one is you do a lot of things that you don't like to do. And that's a belief that stems in a lot of different places. When getting yourself into a little bit of trouble here, what are certain things that you've done besides nursing? And this is another, I'm leading into something else. I'm talking with a lot of my clients about purpose and legacy, and a lot of them was like, I just don't know what to do. And I was like, Art, don't think about this like a vision board that you know what's happening. The universe and your God, your higher powers actually has this taken for you. You just have to keep on walking forward. You're not going to see it all the time. And in your case, you have this belief. It's like, I find myself doing a lot of things I don't like doing, but that turns you into a nurse for 10 years, which then got you to do this. That's completely different. You had to learn what you didn't like. So with that said, doing something that you eventually didn't like, how was that, me spitting it out in that way? How does that make you feel about what you just went through to get to a place that you love?
I mean, I've noticed this in a lot of things that I've done that I didn't like. You realize sometimes it's not even that you don't like it, it's new to you and you haven't tried it yet to find out if you like it. That's something I learned because there's so many things I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like that. Well, food was one of the first things. I don't like that. I won't eat it. Well, did you really give it a try? So that started the I don't like thing. Well, also the nursing thing did. So now I like lots of foods and I didn't think I would ever eat them. Running. I hated running. You asked me like whenever it was. I don't know. It was 2019 when I started running. You asked me if I
like,
yeah.
You need to pre-phrase that for a second and say how much you actually run. Like when I was like, we're gonna have to postpone this for a second because you said some monstrosity of marathons that you had to run in a weekend. So please, before you say how much you hated running, please tell people how much you run now.
I mean, I run a lot, not as much as some, but I run a pretty good amount.
Shit, but go ahead.
So I mean, if you just want like the most I run in one go is 50 miles. So I've done a 50-mile run, done lots of marathons at this point. I've done the Dopey Challenge 3 times, which is 5K, 10K, half marathon, full marathon in 4 days in a row. I just like the challenge of the distance running.
And all this in 2019. So if you're ever thinking about, I don't like to do something, or the universe is putting this in my way and I don't want to do it, like this is an example. Like 2 years, she's running multiple marathons in a 4-day span. Like the Dopey is no joke. Running 50 miles at one time is no joke either. Like I'm not a big fat runner. I that's one of the things I'm just like, no. I give it, I train, get people for it. I just can't do it. So I give it to every runner that I see my way, especially triathlons. That's why I started my world, is working with triathlons. I was like, I could bike, I might be able to swim, but running, no.
That's funny. No. I'm the opposite. I'm like, I'll run, I'll bike, swimming. I like swimming, but not in the Florida water. I don't know. It's just something about it. It makes me nervous. But again, here we are. I know that if I tried it, I probably wouldn't mind it. So
that's the whole thing. So where were we? Because now I got you off subject. So now you're in the preventative world. Yeah. Switching over from being reactive into preventative. Like, what is one thing that you want to tell me? Because this is something I told you I was going to ask. That was really funny that happened when someone is coming out of anesthesia.
Oh,
you said a lot of things happened.
Spur of the moment. There's been a lot of really, really crazy, like out of this world things that people will say, and you're like, or they'll tell you deep dark secrets, and like, please don't tell so and so I said this. I mean, if we're talking about like some actions of things that people have done that's crazy. I would say just like if they come out delirious. And when they come out delirious, I mean, they are like fighting you, like standing up on the stretcher, peeing everywhere, like it's a whole thing. But I've had a lot of like just funny jokes and stuff that people have said and I guess experiences. I wish I kept a journal. I honestly do, because some of the things that were said and happened were like, this can't be real life right now.
You gotta give us one.
I'm trying to think of one. I'm really bad at spur of the moment stuff.
So let me paint a picture for you. You're now watching somebody come out of anesthesia, and there's a room. What does the room look like? Like that you're like somebody.
Oh, it's just it's a big open room, by the way. So like when people are delirious and they're stripping down, they're butt naked in the middle, like there's other people across from them that can see it happening. So it's this big open room. There are curtains you can pull, but sometimes, like I said, people are like whipping their clothes off and they're butt naked as they're coming across, and you're like, oh my gosh, everyone's rushing to close their curtains to like protect privacy and whatever. We did kids there too, and sometimes the kids they were some of the funniest ones. I think one of my favorites was this teenager. He came out and he was singing, "You Got a Friend in Me." And he's like, "You got a friend in me." And then we got to it was like the end. He's like, "You got a friend, you got a friend." And he pointed at everybody in the pack and just like sang it to them. It was one of the cutest moments. I'm like, oh, that was really heartwarming, because sometimes the things that teenagers say when they wake up, not heartwarming at all.
Just be cursing people out.
Oh yeah, people cuss people out all the time, and little kids would do it too.
What?
Yeah.
See, this is stuff like I would love to know behind the curtains. Like I would love to see operations, but my doctor friends was like, it's legally I can't bring you in here. I'm like, I don't want to see it. So I just love hearing stories like that, just because I'm a geek like that. But we are off beliefs and things like that, and I just wanted to get a little bit more of an understanding of that.
I could remember I had some really funny stories. I'm telling you, for some reason, it's always the really hard ones that pop out that you're like, that's not one you want to share.
I want you to share everything. That's the difference between me. I want you to share everything. Like this person was throwing poop at me like I was a monkey. I don't care. I want to hear and to laugh. It's just
I had someone mad at me for Pepsi, because we didn't have Pepsi. She was so mad at me, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't know we were out of Pepsi, because at the time we had like Pepsi, I think it was ginger ale. We had a couple options for drinks, and then like the budget cuts happened and we lost a lot of the drinks, but we were just out of Pepsi this day. And then I feel like she kind of already didn't like me to begin with. I don't know why. She kind of gave me an attitude, probably anesthesia. She yelled at me for not having Pepsi, because I said, I'm so sorry, we don't have Pepsi right now. And I told her the other option. She was like, ugh, and she got so mad that when I closed the curtain and another nurse came out, she offered her patient the exact same drinks, including Pepsi, because she didn't know we were out of Pepsi either. My patient screams, "They don't have Pepsi." I was like, oh gosh. It's wild the way people will act after anesthesia, and you're just like, I don't know how to take this. Like, do they just not like me, or is it the drugs on board? I don't know, but
one of the things that no, I'm not going to go down that route, because I already see that happening. So we're not going to go down the anesthesia road, because that's a fun topic all on its own. Angela, when you get into personal training and helping someone break their mindsets, you went through a bunch of different courses. You did your learning to learn for yourself, and you played with it yourself. You brought up a couple of things like consistency, as well as learning how to prioritize your health. What are certain things that people have absolutely trouble with getting over? Like the consistency thing is one. Mindset is another thing. But I want you to know, how does your nursing and preventative help you with getting people over this hurdle?
I feel like nursing helps me because I kind of know like what can happen down the road, and I can kind of like talk to them about those challenges that can happen down the road and be like, hey, remember, it's not just about what's happening right now. It's about down, in the future, what could happen if we don't continue down this path we're trying to go down. If we veer off, what does that look like? And then I can kind of like, I guess, help them in that sense. But also it helps because when people are going through things, I kind of understand some of the diagnoses they have as a coach versus like maybe a health and fitness coach wouldn't know all of those details
What?
without having that background.
Like what?
If they have like, I don't know, PCOS, hypothyroidism, even injuries. Now, I'm not the master of injuries, but I kind of can understand like, ooh, you know, maybe we need to like dig a little deeper, proceed with caution with some of these things. Helping them get over some of the beliefs about like diabetes and care for it, and how they can actually manage things in the long term. I know there's a lot that they're taught in from their doctors and from whatever healthcare providers, but there's also stuff they could be doing that helps them even further than what is being told over here, if that makes sense.
I have a fun question for you. What is one thing that's being taught in the conventional bottom rung of the Western world that people know that you've heard about that's actually causing them harm? What is one thing, especially about diabetes?
I would say like heavily relying on medications is definitely one of the things. And then for some reason, there's a big push for like just cardio, not strength training. There's a big push for super low carb. There's not like a push for, I would say, whole foods necessarily. It's like just cut out your carbs and you'll be good. That's not necessarily true either. So
Why is that? Why is that?
why is cutting out carbs not great?
Correct.
Carbs are great. Carbs are a great source of energy, and that's where most of our fruits and vegetables and whole grains come from. So we need carbs. They have the fiber. Fiber is good for us. It helps with our digestive system, which also helps with blood sugar control, helps with our muscle growth, and our muscles rely on glycogen as well to help grow. Our muscles are wonderful in controlling blood sugars as well. I think that's something that a lot of people aren't taught, is if you strength train, probably going to help those blood sugars a lot more than you even realize.
I like the gunshot. That's what I'm talking about. Because you almost got me talking about liver health and clearing out the liver, so on and so forth. We're not. That's a different podcast altogether. I'm on the conversational side, not the geeky side of getting.
I know cleanses and stuff are told all the time as well, but
Say that last part again.
I said cleanses, and I don't know. There's a lot that just doesn't make sense in this world right now.
Tell me more. Tell me more about that. And what you believe about around cleanses. And
well, I would say, let me proceed cautiously. So our liver can cleanse and detox itself so long as we provide it with the things it needs to be provided, right? But if you just go take exactly, but if we just go take like some cleanse that someone's selling, it's probably not going to help us a whole lot. You know what I mean? We need to like do the inner work that's going to be long term. So nutrition, hydration, activity, sleep, stress control, all those things.
Okay. So I can see that we're going to geek out on a different adventure, but when it comes down to people doing things harm for themselves and they're trying to do the right thing, what are certain things that they can do besides the obvious? You know, weight train, and people are telling them low carb diet, stay away from low carbs. The bigger one that is out there is the keto world versus the high fat world, or the, like, what do you think about diets all together, and how do you handle that differently?
I don't think you have to do any one particular diet, because the end goal is kind of the same for each one. You need to find what works best in your life, and if it's not something you can stick to, it's not going to be sustainable, and it's not something you should even proceed with, because it's not going to last, right? Finding what works for you, and for most people, it means finding things that fit into their life, including carbs and some of the treats, but not going to one extreme and then jumping to another extreme. Keto, intermittent fasting, all these things, they have their purposes, but they are essentially the same thing. A calorie deficit, that's what the goal is. They're putting you in a calorie deficit, which is giving you the results. Yes, there's like a lot of science and stuff out there too on keto diet and like mental health as well. But again, for some people, that's not sustainable in the long term. And so for me, I'm very more like, what's going to work for this person forever? Not like, okay, what's going to work right now, and then they're going to fall off and have to figure it out down the road. Like, that's not the goal.
Right.
So like,
I have so many things I want to say about that based off of science, based off of this. But the bigger thing is learning how to find out what's right for you. How do you discern what's right for a person, whether it's weight training, the amount of cardio versus the macro world versus the just eating what you feel. Call it the taste test. If it tastes good to you, run with it, but it can't be sugar because you're automatically gonna say that's good. But if you want to eat it, so on and so forth. Like there's many different ways you can cut this. How do you find out that?
It just takes time working with someone. Like usually we start with like, okay, let's start here, see how this works for you. And then you kind of see as you work through with them side by side, coach with them, watch their eating patterns, you kind of see like where they tend to lean. And for some people, they do prefer like more fat. So I might shift them and say, oh, well, let's do more fats, maybe a little lower carb for you. Or for some people, it's a little bit higher carb, lower fat. Just depends. It depends on what I see as a trend and what fits better in their lifestyle. And then same with like fitness. Like I legit just messaged one of my clients. I'm like, all right, this is a tough season. I recognize we're having a very hard time getting the consistency into the workouts. What is reasonable for you right now? Because what's reasonable for her last, 6 months ago when she was working out 3 days a week for 45 minutes or whatever it was and running is not reasonable for her now. So now we're down to 20-minute workouts 2 times a week. If that's all she can get in, better than nothing. So we just adjust and adapt to what's going on in their life that still gets them moving forward without being too overwhelming. You know what I mean?
Who's your ideal person that you work with that can switch around with that?
That's a great question. And everybody says you got to have a niche. You have to have a specific person you work with. And I don't necessarily have a specific person because I have anyone from like, what's my youngest? 20s to we've worked with people in their 70s. I don't really have a super specific niche. I definitely tend to take care of more runners. For me as a coach, I have 2 other assistant coaches, and they definitely have like theirs as well. Like my sister is really like strength training. People love her. And then Coach Tina, because she's a mom of 4 kids. The moms love her. Like they're all about her because she knows how to juggle it all, right? And definitely it seems that I attract the running crowd or people who are at least interested in it anyway. So I would say
You work with runners.
Yeah, I guess I work with runners who also want to like just work on their lifestyle overall. But I don't want to say that I won't take someone who doesn't run because I like helping everybody, to be honest. I just do. I haven't found like one specific that I'm like, that's it. That's all I'm working with.
When I teach businesses to grow and scale and things like that, and they say things like that, I've been really successful. I got all these people going in. And I said, it's going to get even easier for you once you realize it's not about niching down that people teach about. It's more about sharing a love space. Like this is your ideal person because this is the person that went through my journey with me. And I know where they are because I'm just a few years ahead of them. And I know exactly what they're going to go through. And that's a different type of ideal client. And the fact that 2 years ago you started running and now you're doing all these running, there's certain things and beliefs that you actually radiate and energetically. So now these people are like, oh, this girl knows what's up. And I don't know why, but I'm attracted to her. And that's the energetic space of you sharing the same values, you sharing the same qualities. And it's clumped up between running, but I guarantee you there's more to it. And that's the difference between ideal clientele. So if you're a runner, reach out to Angela. But like if you want strength training, there's
I guess it's someone who wants to challenge themselves and is excited to do different things than they thought they could. To like challenge their bodies in a way they didn't even think or imagine they'd be doing a year before or whatever. That's definitely like more who I bond with, I guess you could say, or I attract. So
what was the hardest thing that you had to overcome with a client?
With starting this business?
Within the business, yes, because we're outside the nursing world now, girl.
Maybe self-doubt, and it's a constant battle. Believing in myself that I can do something big and scary and like never thought I could do. But clearly I've been able to do that over the years. I've practiced it over and over. So it's grown my confidence, right? That's the whole goal. If there's something you don't think you can do, try. And if you fail, that's okay. And eventually when you get it, you're going to build your confidence and you'll be like, oh, I did that. So now this scary thing, maybe this will help me grow in the way that this one did. And so then you just like, it's just this ripple effect. You just keep going down the line and trying new, scary, challenging things. So for me, maybe it started
Is
with.
that what you would teach people? Is that something that you teach people because you've been through it, or is that something that you're actively going through consistently and you're ahead of the game for the people that's coming?
I mean, I'm still going through it. I still have fears and challenges every single, I don't want to say day, but it's definitely things that crop up. For example, this podcast, like I have turned down multiple opportunities to talk with people on podcasts because I'm like, I'm nervous about it. I don't know. It just, it's foreign to me. It's not something I've done. So
I love the fact that you're giving me this honor. I love it, and I want to say thank you for that because you didn't meet me. Like, you don't know me. And I'm just like, oh, fuck,
Well, I
love
don't
this
know
woman
you.
already.
Maybe that's why it's better though, because I don't know, you know what I mean? Maybe the why that was easier for me because I didn't know you. And I'm like, well, you know, when you know someone, you're like, what if I let them down?
I'm getting to know you now.
No, it's true. A lot of people have that same challenge.
So what would you say if a person is starting off their journey and they're trying to get away from the reactive world that the world has put them in and they're going into preventative? You told me that you want people to lead with their heart and that's what you want to teach people, but there's more tactical things that you can do. What are certain things that you would say is good for a person to actually do? What advice would you give them to stay in this preventative world, stay consistent, besides find the thing that you like to do?
Finding the thing you like to do or at least can tolerate is going to help you stay consistent. But it's really more just about choosing you every day and showing up for you every day. And something that I have people think about is like, okay, well, think about the person that you're trying to become or that this goal you have in mind. Think about that person in this moment right now. What would they choose to do? Because a lot of the times, like when you're in the moment, something that you want sounds really good, and that end goal or whatever it is you're reaching for is so far out of sight. Like you're not thinking about it when you got this platter of cookies in front of you, right? But if you're like, okay, well, what would this version of me in the future, what would Angela in the future do in this moment? If the person who's reached their goals, a person who feels better about themselves and confident and in control, what would they do right now? What would they choose? And I think sometimes that helps you like stop and think before you just react. You know what I mean? Like you stop, you're thinking about what would they do? What would I do? And it helps you instead of like just grabbing and working off of emotion, you actually have thought behind it. You know what I mean? It pauses that emotional moment because a lot of times it's emotional when you're reacting to something. It's it is. It's not actually like something you're thinking about. It's something very emotionally driven. So just pausing.
How do you get over your emotions to stop overeating, Angela?
My goodness, it doesn't always happen, but it's one of those things where you stop and you say, okay, well, am I actually hungry right now? Or is this coming from a place of anxiety? For me, it's usually like if I'm feeling anxious or stressed. Usually it's those two things. Sometimes I'll say, well, let me get up and like get rid of some of this nervous energy and I'll go for a walk. Deep breathing helps me a lot. So, you know, intentional, nice, slow, deep breaths, 4 seconds, 5 seconds in, 4 second, 5 second pause, 4 second, 5 second exhale, just slowing things down. Yep. Slowing the things down because our minds are constantly like, and it doesn't give us time to stop and think if we don't intentionally stop and think and pause.
So if you were to give somebody advice, it would be like be intentional what you're doing, and being intentional means like who would you be, who you fight for, who you're going to become, and then see who that person would be.
Exactly.
Awesome. All right. So besides telling someone hang in there, right? Hang in there, tough it out. You got this. You got this. What are some last words of wisdom that you would like to give them in getting them to really to get out of this, you know, reactive world and get into this prevention place where, you know, there's all these memes that I said before that, you know, it's more expensive to go into the hospital than to actually do the lifting. You know, it's really, really more expensive to eat healthy, but how expensive is it to have all the meds and all the drugs and all the things that you need to do? Like, Are they really going? There's all those memes that's happening now. Besides hanging there, what words of advice would you give somebody?
I would definitely, like, for one, pay attention to like other things that are improving in your life by staying consistent, because a lot of the times you don't think about like, oh, my skin's clear, or my energy's better, or I'm sleeping better, or for some people my sex drive's better. Like, pay attention to those smaller things versus like just the physical, because there are a lot of signs that are going to come at you from your body, from your mind. So pay attention to those. And what was the other thing? There was something I was thinking. Oh, clearly, what you've done in the past, which is what we tend to want to revert back to always, it got you to where you are now, and that's what you're unhappy with and you want to change, right? So continuing to do the same things, continuing the same behavior, where will that get you? It's not going to get you any change. If you continue to do the same thing, you can't expect change. You have to do something different in order to expect change. And that means staying the course and being consistent, even though it's very boring work, it still pays off beautifully in the long term, and it does get easier too.
So I would love to add a little bit onto that, because she said that shit perfectly. This is boring work. Once you find the thing that works, you have to turn off the squirrel, the rabbit, I have to need something to stay focused. And that's where people are like, it's my ADD. No, it's not. It's just you have a dopamine hit when you move to the next direction. You do something else. Mm-hmm. You have to stay the course and be consistent on the things that's boring. But that's the beauty part about it. It's simple. It's easy. It's yours. Lean into what becomes easy to you, and then you'll find your sweet spot. You'll find your purpose. You'll find your passion if you stay with that zone of, oh, this comes easy to me. I love this. But it's not exciting. It's almost like when people say, oh, I found love, it's my soulmate, it's all this, and they have that honeymoon phase. I was like, all right, just give it a month. Let's see what happens.
Like, we're giving it 7 years.
Like, you have to live in that boring spot and lean into that, and you'll find your sweet spot. You'll find what you're going for. And remember, the universe is looking out for you. Whatever shows your way is, even though it's challenging, it might be hard. It's not here to kill you. It's not here to stop you. It's here to make you better in that way. So, Angela, if they want to find you to get some help from a nurse that went from a reactive state, burnt out, body issues, to now teaching people how to do the exact opposite and stay preventative and stay on top. And if they don't want to run, they can weight lift, as well as if you're a mom, she got everything in that world in her business. How would they be able to find you?
You can find us on all the social media. So if you want to go Instagram, my name is Awkward Ange on Instagram. If you want to go on Facebook, there's the STF Fitness Community group we have on there. You can join us. We put a lot of free information in there. We have our website too, though, stffit.com.
That slowly one more time for me.
It's www.stffit.com.
Perfect. There we go. So I want to thank everyone for listening. This was a longer conversation where we were just jabbing away, because I just love talking to people and understand who they are. Thank you for coming. But if you do know somebody that now is trying to get out of that world of reaction, they want to get into the preventative space, and you think this can help them, please share this podcast. It can only help them. It doesn't hurt them. It's just a button. So share away. If you need any other help from me, I'm an open book. You can find me on this podcast, as well as Instagram under PatrickLaRouge1.com. Freedom Mastery is here for everyone. If you're looking for any free resources, just go to my bio, and I will have anything that you need that's going to help you optimize your mind and body. Until next time, everybody, bye.